this is Sandy with ICE Resin. Today we're going to be talking about applying a patina with paint to the surface of ICE Resin. So the first thing I want to show you is how to apply paint to a bezel. Applying paint helps add texture and interest to your piece. So I have a bezel here I'm pretty happy with, but I'd like it to have a little bit more interest. So with my X-Acto knife, I'm going to take my knife and I'm just going to mar it up. I'm just going to make some little lines on it. So I'm just doing little random scratches. Now I don't want them right over what I've painted in this. I don't want to lose that, but I do want some interest and some texture sort of in the areas that are blank a little bit. So now I've carved some scratches in it. I don't know if you can see those, but the great thing about using paint to add a patina is it really brings these out. You don't have to scratch real deep with this, and if you don't want to use an X-Acto knife, you can use your Dremel will work. So just take a small bit of, I just use my fingers. You can use a paintbrush or Q-tips, but I like using my fingers and kind of getting in there. So you can just put a little bit of paint and then sort of smear it all over your piece. So now I've got it all rubbed in. Just take a paper towel and rub it off. And now where I've made my scratches, I've left some nice little blue marks in this. And now when I go to put my last coat of resin on this, it's going to look really nice. These colors are just going to pop out. And here's one that I've already done, and it has its final coat of resin on it. And I hope you guys can see that. So it's got nice lines, and it really adds texture and dimension to the piece. But one of my favorite things about ICE Resin is that you can create a three-dimensional piece. You can mold any kind of piece you want, and then when you get the mold out, it doesn't look all that exciting. It's pretty plain and clear, and if you don't put inclusions in it, then it's really hard to tell what the piece is. But with paint, you can really make all of the dimensions in this pop. So I really like using just a burnt umber or a raw umber or some kind of dark color, because it really it makes it look weathered and old. And I just get a little bit on my brush. I usually use my brush for this just because I want to get into all the cracks and crevices. And so I'll go through and paint, and then I can wipe off as much as I want. And if I want it darker, I can add thicker paint. If I want his, I don't know if you can tell what this is, it's a buffalo, but if I want his mane to be a little bit darker than his face, I just make the paint thicker and go in there. And then just sort of rub off as much as you want. And if you mess up, because this is acrylic paint, you can wash it off as long as it's not completely dried. You can use oil paints. However, oil paints take a long time to dry, and sometimes when you go to pour ICE Resin back over the oil paints and it's not dry, it'll smear. So that's one way of using paint to texture the outside. Here's a little pair of legs that I used brown for the legs, and then I just used a hot pink for her shoes. And then this little guy, he's completely done with paint. I just painted his body with a blue paint, his hat with red, and I did his beard with some brown and then put some white in there to sort of highlight it. But there you go. That's an easy way to add texture and dimension to your ice resin with paint. I'll see you guys later.